Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. So happy to be with you today. How are you all doing? Everybody feeling good, feeling energized? Here in New York City, it's a rainy day, it's cloudy, it's kind of cold, as it should be. It's winter, but it is one of those days where you kind of want to cocoon, to make the choice to be inside, to snuggle up, to put on something soft and warm. And I think it's also a day to be reflective, which is what we do here on Dreamleapers Inspiration. We figure out ways that we can tap in to our greatness. As you saw in the video that opens the broadcast, we're looking to pause for a moment, to take a pause out of what for almost everybody is a very busy life, to connect to the greatness within. And sometimes we're so busy, we don't even think about that. We are putting one foot in front of the other, or literally on pause, not doing anything physical. But generally speaking, there's busyness in our world, in our minds, in our thoughts, and often on our to-do list. So if you're like most people, you're probably going, I know what you mean. It certainly is true for me that I make a to-do list every day, including on the weekends. For those of you who've been on this journey of Dreamleapers Inspiration with me for a while, you know I'm a big believer in lists. And I believe in writing down the big goals and then the steps that will allow you to make those goals manifest. Because as you check off each little thing, what happens is you get inspired over and over again. Yes, I'm doing it. Yes, I'm getting things done. The big goal may still be far off in the distance, but what I discovered is if you need both. You need the big dream. You need, what some call having a moonshot mentality. What is the thing that you would like to do to accomplish if there were no obstacles? What is that? Have you all thought about that this year? As this year is beginning, what is that amazing moonshot thing that you would do if you could do anything, if there were no obstacles on your path? What is that? Write that down. And then you can't just leave it at that. Often people don't even write it down. It's what literally is in their dreams, whether it's daydreaming or in their deep sleep dreaming, that something bubbles forth. And folks are like, oh my goodness, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to do that thing. I want to accomplish whatever that is. And then it sort of hangs out in your awareness without manifesting, because you have to do something in order for it to manifest, right? Isn't that true? So I want you to think about, what is that moonshot thing? What's on your list that you just feel, I really want to do that? What is that? Whatever that is, I want you to write it down. You can write it down right now. Write it down for yourself. You can write it in the chat box if you like, but just write it down. Write down that thing that you are daring to dream right now. And then from there, here's the thing. You can't just leave it at that, because usually that thing is so big that if you just write it down, you don't manifest it, because it needs to be broken down into smaller pieces, into little chunks, into little tasks. So that's why, if you make an outline and you have your title, then you have your, if you do it in A, B, C, and then under A, you indent a little bit, 1, 2, 3, and you keep indenting until it's really refined. What is it? What are the steps that you have to take in order to accomplish each of those principal things that it will take for you to reach whatever that moonshot dream is. So you don't let anybody tell you, no, you can't do something. You don't let yourself tell you, no, you can't do something. Instead, you break it down into manageable tasks, and then you set out to accomplish those tasks. And what does it take in order to do that? To accomplish whatever that big dream is? Commitment. Commitment. That's why today's Dreamleapers Inspiration is about commitment. I am asking each one of us to commit to something. It can be to the big dream, the moonshot. It can be to something small. The point is, make a commitment to something. I want you to ask yourself, how often do you make commitments and you fulfill them? How often do you make commitments and you actually fulfill them? So if we think about the commitments you make to others, interestingly, those are the ones that we are often better at following up on, the commitments we make to others. So if you make a commitment to work, for example, you know you have to, if you are one of the people who goes into the office now, you know you have to leave at a certain time in order to be able to get to your job on time. If you're one of the people who's hybrid or you're still working from home and you have to turn on the computer to log into a meeting, like we use Zoom and other technology all the time now to connect to others. You have to do that on time. You have to commit to showing up for an engagement on time. Most people accomplish those things. Get to work on time. Turn on your computer on time to connect to a meeting. Log in to work if you have to do that electronically on time. And then, so that's one thing. You can probably say that is a commitment that you fulfill on a regular basis. What else do you fulfill? Very often, again, it's commitments to other people. Commitments to, if you have children, to make sure that you help with their homework, to make sure that you get them to school on time, to make sure that you are aligned with them in your values. Now, when we get to that, it can be a little trickier because that requires you to be in alignment with your values. How often are you living in alignment with whatever you say you believe, whatever you say you do? How often, ask yourself this question, how often do you live in alignment with what you say you believe? Often, regularly, every day, all the time? I'm going to bet it's not necessarily all the time. And look, see, we have Gwen wrote, I need to work on being on time. Gwen, thank you for being honest about that. Even, and when I said it out loud about leaving in time to get to a meeting on time, or even showing up and literally turning on your computer and turning on the screen, even that, some of us, probably more of us than want to admit it, are not as committed as we need to being precise about when we do that. We give ourselves grace, so to speak, for showing up late. But is that actually helpful? No, because if you are not there on time, guess what? If anybody else is there, they notice. So that means you're not honoring your word, whatever your word is. If you said, I'm going to be here, I'm going to do this at this particular time, and then you don't do it, then you're not honoring your word. And it ends up spiraling and it backfires on you and you feel terrible. Who wants to be the person who doesn't honor their word? None of us. None of us. And so this notion of commitment, I started by saying commitment to others. For many of us, it seems that a commitment to someone else, to something else, can be easier to fulfill. Not always easy, like we said. Well, being on time, maybe not so much. But often what we say, what we tell people we're going to do for them, we often do more than the commitment that we tell ourselves that we're going to do for us. So we are in January. I wonder how many people made some kind of commitment for the year. Did you make a commitment to yourself, something you were going to do for yourself, for your life, for this year? Did you? I made a few commitments. I wrote them down. We had a broadcast a few weeks ago, and I encouraged everybody to write down whatever it is that you're committing to yourself. I wrote mine down. Did you write yours down? I wrote them down. I put this piece of paper in a place where I could easily see it. And I can tell you that I have not done everything on that list every day. Have you? If I'm telling the truth, and what is the point of not telling the truth? If I tell the truth, which I am right now, I have done, I put 3 things on the list. I have done at least one of the 3 every day. So I give myself a third credit. I have not done all 3 every day. Have you? So starting with, did you write them down? And if you didn't, or if you maybe need to refine your list because you're not doing whatever's on it, now's the time to make that refinement. If you wrote it down, good for you. If you didn't, you can write it down now. If you want to refine it, you can refine it now. But then look at it. Are you doing what you said you were going to do for yourself? And if not, why not? There are 24 hours in a day. We're usually awake for about 15 or so. In 15 hours, if you told yourself you're going to do 1, 2, 3 things every day and you haven't done it, ask yourself why. Why? You wrote it down. So here's the thing. The quote that I want us to consider today is going to help us to be better at taking action. And let me read the quote to you. Commitment is an act, not a word. That's from the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. Commitment is an act, not a word. That's powerful. It's simple. It's not a long quote. Sometimes I give us long quotes to contemplate. This one, Jean-Paul Sartre, you got to take that Henry off. Somehow that Henry got in there. Fallon, that's not right. Commitment is an act, not a word. Let's think about that. Starting with to commit, that's a verb. Commitment is an act, not a word. It's an action. To commit is to do something. So writing it down was act number 1. Well, maybe act number 1 was drawing it forth. And then the next action was writing it down, making it concrete. The next one is what you do every day to make it real. It's something, it requires doing something. That's why I'm suggesting that we commit to something. Commit to doing something that is toward your goal. Now, I want to tell you, I love stories. I'll tell you a story that may provide a little bit of relief for some of you. Years ago, I moved to New York in the mid-'80s, and I had a dream. I was working for Essence Magazine, had a wonderful job, and I had a dream that I had a business. And no one in my family was an entrepreneur. My father was a judge, my mother a retired kindergarten teacher, people who worked in everything from like administration. Like my one aunt was a secretary, another worked in the school system, a couple of them worked in the school system. All had great things that they did. No one was an entrepreneur. I had a dream that I had a business. And all kinds of things were in this dream, all kinds of details. And so I wrote it all down. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I typed it out, wrote it all down, printed it, and put it on my refrigerator. It was incredibly detailed. My spirit had talked to me, and I had the wherewithal of knowing I needed to write it down then so I wouldn't forget. I put it on my refrigerator, and I want you to know that it became a piece of paper on my refrigerator for years. I didn't look at it, it was there. Other things were taped to my refrigerator. I didn't pay attention to it at all until one day. One day, things were not going the way that I really wanted them to. At work, I had a great job, but it was time to change. And I needed some motivation. And suddenly, this piece of paper that had been yellowing on my refrigerator for years came to life. And I looked at it and I read it. And my spirit said, now is the time to act on what's on this piece of paper. And I did. 2 years later, I left Essence and started my business. It had been on my refrigerator for 5, 6, 7 years, a long time. I tell you that because some of the things that you have written down may be things that are for you to work on later. Some of them may be seeds that you've planted, and by writing them down, you are letting yourself know that the moment is going to come when you need to ignite these particular things. So perhaps the action of writing it down being the step of concretizing the idea, that could be enough for now. And in my case, it wasn't until it was time that I started my business and have been in business ever since. Many, many, many years, more than 25 years. I wasn't ready before that. It wasn't that I was procrastinating. It wasn't that I was lazy. It was all of that needed to come out in that moment, that moonshot that came through my dreams when I wrote it down like 3 o'clock in the morning. That was supposed to come out then and lay dormant for a long time. And then when it was time to act, I did. And it wasn't easy, but it was there. The blueprint was there because my spirit had told me. So I'm telling you that for anybody who, if you feel bad, oh, I wrote this down, I told myself I was going to do something, I haven't done it yet. You're not supposed to do everything right this moment. The challenge is figuring out what are you supposed to do in the moment. So some things on my list, the list I made this year, I put really practical things on the list. They weren't moonshot things. One was a health thing, one was an organizational thing, and one was about peace. And they are 3 things that I can do every day, even though I haven't done them every day. But as I say it out loud to you now, it is a reminder of my accountability to myself. Commitment is an act, not a word. That's what Jean-Paul Sartre said. I have to recommit every day to doing the things I told myself I was going to do every day. So do you. If there are things on your list that were everyday things that you really know you need to commit to doing every day, make the commitment. Renew your commitment right now that tells yourself, I'm going to do this. Why? Because I deserve to take care of myself. Because if I do this one thing, I'm going to have a certain sense of peace and contentment because I fulfilled a promise I made to myself. I believe that if you do that for yourself, just do it today, do it this week. You know, one of the things that the teach in 7-step programs is one day at a time. What can you do today? If you put 3 things on your list, can you accomplish those 3 things today? This is the beginning of the day for many people. Can you do whatever you have committed to do? 3 things today. And if you can, then what about tomorrow? When you get up tomorrow, look at your list. Can you do those 3 things again? When you do it and you check it off, it feels good, I'm telling you. And when you don't, you go, oh, I didn't do it. I need to do it. And whenever you remember, do it. So you're not beating yourself up, you're taking action. And so there are different kinds of commitments that we're talking about. For me, this year, the 3 things that I wrote down are very basic things that I can do every day. If I remind myself, I take the action, I do it, I check it off. I celebrate the fact that I did it. That is not all that's on my list. I'm a list girl. On my list also are some moonshot things, big dreams, things that I feel are really important for my creativity, for my future, for my family. They're big. Those are those big, fat ideas that have to be broken down into smaller pieces. Do you have any of those? I bet you do. Now, I'm asking because I have talked to a few people who have very defiantly told me that they do not have any dreams. I don't know what you're talking about, Harriet. Everybody doesn't dream. I don't have dreams. I'm so busy, I don't have time to dream. I don't know what you mean. I challenge everyone who has that thought because I think if you sit still long enough and sit with yourself and allow yourself to listen to the voice inside, there is something in there that's waiting to come out. But you do have to listen and be quiet enough and give yourself enough space to hear what your spirit is telling you should do. And you're worth it. Every day that you are alive, you're worth it. Ask yourself, what do I really want? What's a big dream that's stirring inside of me that I want to manifest? What might that be? Write it down. Write down 1, write down 2, write down as many things as come up. Make a vision board for this year where you sit and you meditate and you listen to the voice inside and ask, what am I supposed to be doing now? What should I be doing right now? You ask yourself that question. You sit and you listen. Give yourself the space to be still and listen. And whatever comes up, write it down, words, phrases, images, and then make yourself a vision board with the words. Look in newspapers, magazines, and books to find images that reflect whatever came up for you. Make a vision board for yourself. Put it somewhere where you can look at it. And then work toward whatever manifested, what came up for you. I do vision boarding workshops with people a lot, and you would be amazed to see what comes up when you listen to the voice inside. It's not necessarily what you've been working on. A lot of people do this vision boarding work and then go, whoa, I was thinking about something else, but now my spirit told me I need to be working on this. Has that happened for you? You should make a vision board for yourself. And then as you do it, choose something on that vision board that you're going to work on. Just as I made that point, Gwen says, my problem is that I'm trying to do too much. All right, so if your vision board has 20 things on it and you say you're going to do all 20, you will not be successful. Sorry, but it's true. We've been taught that you can multitask. Honestly, I don't think so. Not really. We can do one thing at a time, at least one thing well. So you have to choose. If you have on your vision board 10 things that you really want to do in this life. You have to choose one at a time. Which one will you do now? I have a friend who I'm on the board with, this wonderful charity called the Prasad Project. And my friend Deborah told me about 8 years ago, maybe, that she wanted to write a book. And in fact, that she was writing a book. I said, oh, great. Well, how often do you write? And she said, once a week, sometimes less, because she's very busy. She was on our board, other boards. She does a lot of nonprofit work. She has two children, grandchildren, husband, busy. And in her world, for anybody who works with charities and does volunteering, those are like full-time jobs. So she was busy. And each of the things that she was working on took commitment. And she said she was writing this book. And I said, well, if you're writing it like that, you're never going to finish. And she looked at me, she said, that's harsh, that's strong, Harriet. And I said, well, what I've learned, and I'm the author of 7 books, is if you write every day, you get it done. If you don't write every day, you're not going to finish. And I think because it sounded harsh to her when I said, well, you're not going to get it done, she went home. She thought about it. She realigned herself with her priorities. To your point, when she was doing too much to be able to accomplish this big goal she had. So she streamlined other activities in her life and started writing every day. Last week, I went to a book signing of hers for her 3rd book. She's getting rave reviews for these books. She's having fun. She's traveling around the country. Now that things have opened up, she's able to be at book events all over. Why? Because she committed to the goal. And she pared back on other things. You can't do everything at the same time. It does not work. What happens, a few things happen if you try to do everything at the same time. You don't do anything well. You often show up late or kind of rusty. You disappoint yourself and others, right? That all these things come when you spread yourself too thin. You don't put yourself in a position to honor your commitments. And so lots of things fall apart. You end up feeling bad, and it often reverberates in your world so that others feel bad too. It is the exact opposite of your intention. Because usually our intentions are, I can't say no to this or this person or this activity or this opportunity. I can't say no. It would be unkind of me, or I'm afraid if I don't accept this thing or that thing, I won't have the abundance that I need in my life. How many of us accept too many projects because we're afraid if we don't take that one, we might not have enough resources in order to live our lives? What if this thing goes away? If I accept all the things, then I'll still have something. I've made that mistake. It's a big mistake. What works is what Deborah did. Sit down, figure out your priorities, realign your priorities with what you think is most important. Pare down your list, take things off. You've heard the saying, no is a complete sentence. Say no. Say no to things when you can't do them. You don't want to do them. You don't have time. You have other priorities. You don't have to be mean about it, but you can say no. Do not agree to do more than you can accomplish well. Don't agree to do things that are not in alignment with your values. Don't compromise your values by agreeing to do more than you can. Commit to honoring your plan. Commit to honoring your plan. Commitment is an act, not a word. And so the takeaway for all of us is to commit to something. I suggested for myself 3 things to do every day. You can choose one, but commit to something today. Decide that there is something that you will do every day that will improve your life. Commit to it. There's a book called Atomic Habits that I'm enjoying so much. And one of the points in this book is that it talks about the little things that you can do to make a 1% difference in your life. But a 1% difference every day can manifest exponentially over time into something that creates a great habit that maybe wasn't in the past. What will you commit to today and do today and follow up and do tomorrow and do again? Atomic Habits is the name of the book. Atomic Habits, Habits. Wonderful book. Read that. It'll help you to refine your commitments. But I'm asking every one of you today, commit to something and do it because you're worth it. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.